Mabel had been hearing the river's call for weeks. It wasn't a voice she could hear with her ears, but it was there in her dreams. A soft, whispering voice, laced with the sound of rushing water, beckoned her to come closer. At first she didn't understand. She thought it was just a strange dream, nothing more. But it was more than that. Every time she walked past the Cross River in Calabar, she could feel it like an invisible force pulling at her soul. A strange warmth would spread through her chest as if the river itself was reaching out to her, asking her to come closer. Mabel was used to walking near the river. It was a place she had known all her life. But now, there was something different. She couldn't ignore it anymore. It was as if the river had become alive, calling to her, urging her to follow. Every day, as she passed the riverbank, she could feel the pull stronger and stronger. It was like the water itself was whispering her name. That evening, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of fiery orange and deep purple, Mabel felt the pull more than ever. The air was thick with the earthy scent of damp soil and river water. She stood still, listening to the sound of the gentle current, and felt the warm breeze brush against her skin. The river seemed calm, but there was something in the air, something that made Mabel's heart race. It was the perfect time, and she could no longer resist. The river had been calling her, and now she had to answer. She kicked off her sandals, feeling the cool earth beneath her bare feet, and walked along the edge of the river. The water was eerily still, like it was waiting for something. Almost felt as if the whole world had fallen silent. As she walked further along the riverbank, her eyes were drawn to something strange. In the distance, a giant tree stood by the water. Its roots were buried deep into the riverbank, twisting and turning in odd snake-like patterns. The tree was ancient, its bark rough and gnarled. But what caught Mabel's attention the most was the small wooden door carved into its trunk. It was no ordinary door. The moment Mabel saw it, she knew something was different. The door shimmered, under the fading sunlight, glowing faintly as though it were alive. Mabel felt her heart race in her chest. She had never seen anything like it before. Who would put a door inside a tree? And why was it glowing? The more she stared at it, the more she felt drawn to it. It was as if the door was calling to her, just like the river had. Without thinking, she stepped closer. Her hand trembled as she reached out and touched the door. The moment her fingers brushed against the wood, everything around her seemed to change. The sound of the river faded away, replaced by a deep humming, noise that seemed to come from the earth itself. A warm gust of wind wrapped around her, and Mabel felt a shiver run down her spine. It was as if the air itself was alive, pulling her into another world. Mabel stepped through the door, and the world around her shifted. The familiar riverbank was gone, replaced by something entirely different. The ground beneath her feet was smooth, polished stone. As she blinked, trying to adjust her eyes to the strange new world, she saw something that took her breath away. Towering serpent-like pillars stretched toward a sky filled with swirling green mist. The air shimmered with gold dust, and the scent of jasmine filled her lungs, mixing with something older, something ancient. Mabel looked around in awe. Crystal chandeliers hung from invisible ceilings, their soft light casting a magical glow across the space. Everywhere she looked, there was treasure, gold coins, pearls, emeralds, and rubies scattered across the ground like an untouched kingdom of wealth. But what shocked Mabel the most were the women or creatures that filled the space. They were not fully human. Bodies were long and sinuous, part human, part serpent. Their skin was smooth and shining, their emerald green eyes glowing like embers in a fire. They moved with a grace that was almost hypnotic, their every movement fluid and mesmerizing. Mabel stood frozen, unable to tear her eyes away from them. They glided across the jeweled floors, their beauty so intense that Mabel felt dizzy. It was like they were from another world, a place that didn't belong to Earth. One of the women stepped forward. She was taller than the others, with golden scales that gleamed in the soft light. Her presence was commanding, as if she ruled over the strange kingdom. A crown of black pearls rested on her head, and her piercing gaze locked onto Mabel's. If she could see straight into her soul. "You have entered Nagaloka," the woman said, her voice smooth but filled with power. "Why have you come?" Mabel felt her throat tighten. She couldn't speak at first. Her mind raced, trying to process what was happening. She had never seen anything like this in her life. She had just walked through a tree and ended up in a magical world full of serpent creatures. She tried to speak, but her voice came out in a whisper. I don't know," Mabel said. "I found a door in a tree, and I stepped through. I didn't know where I was going." The woman's lips curved into a knowing smile. "You are here because you seek wisdom," she said. Her words echoed in Mabel's mind, and something inside her stirred. She had never spoken those words aloud, but they were true. Mabel had always felt restless, like something was missing from her life. She had always questioned her purpose, her reason for being. She had searched for meaning, for something to fill the emptiness she felt deep inside. Mabel took a deep breath. "Yes," she admitted, "I've always questioned my purpose. I don't know what I'm meant to do." The woman's eyes darkened, as if she had been expecting this. She turned and walked to a pedestal made of jewels. On top of it sat a small vial filled with glowing green liquid. She picked it up and held it out to Mabel. "This is the answer you seek," the woman said. "A gift from the realm of the Nagas. This potion holds the power to heal. It is yours now. You will use it to heal the sick, to cure diseases, to bring comfort to those who suffer. This is your purpose." Mabel's hands shook as she reached out to take the vial. The moment her fingers touched it, she felt a rush of energy surge through her body. It was so powerful that she almost gasped. She could feel the magic, the strength of the potion flowing into her, filling her with a sense of purpose and destiny. The woman's voice became serious. "But remember, this gift is sacred. It is not to be sold. You must never charge for its use. If you do, the consequences will be dire." Mabel nodded, her heart pounding in her chest. She didn't understand everything, but she knew this was what she had been searching for. This was the gift that would change her life. Before she could say another word, the world around her began to shift once again. The serpent pillars, the golden dust, the glowing chandeliers, all of it vanished in the blink of an eye. Mabel found herself standing back at the riverbank. The tree and the door gone, leaving no trace of the magical world she had just visited. The only proof that she had been there was the small vial of glowing green liquid in her hand. Mabel stood there staring at it, her mind racing. What had just happened? Was it real? Or had it all been a dream? But the vial in her hand told her that it was real. And somehow she knew that her life was about to change forever. Mabel didn't wait long before she started using the potion. She had no idea how it worked, but she trusted the Naga Queen. After all, she had given her this gift. She knew it was special. The first time she used it, she mixed a single drop of the glowing liquid into some oil. She carefully rubbed it on the arm of a man from her village who had been sick for months. The moment she touched him, she felt a surge of power. His face, which had been pale and lifeless, began to glow with life. His eyes opened, and he sat up, smiling. It was like a miracle. Word spread fast. People came from far and wide to ask for Mabel's help. The sick, the injured, and the dying all wanted to see the woman who could work miracles. At first, Mabel was happy to help. She gave the healing away freely, just as the Naga Queen had told her to. She knew that this was her purpose, and it felt good to help those in need. But as the days passed, something started to change. People didn't just come for healing. They began to offer gifts: bags of rice, yams, goats, and even gold. At first, Mabel refused them. She didn't want to take anything for her work. But the more she healed, the more people insisted. They said it was only right to show gratitude for the miracles she performed. After all, healing was no small thing. Soon, Mabel found herself accepting a small bag of rice here, a goat there. It felt harmless at first. Then, one day, a wealthy merchant came to her with a large sack of gold. "Please, Mabel," he said, "let me give you this for your healing. It is worth much more than I can ever repay you for saving my daughter's life." Mabel hesitated for a moment. She had never seen so much gold in her life. The Naga Queen had warned her against accepting payment, but here it was, staring her. In the face, she felt a temptation deep inside. Why not? She had helped so many people. It seemed only fair to accept something in return. So she took the gold dot. As time went on, Mabel's fame grew. More and more people came to her for healing. She moved out of her small village home and into a large house in the city. She wore fine clothes and drove expensive cars. What had started as a humble calling had turned into something much bigger. Soon she was charging for her healing. Small fee at first, but then it grew. With her newfound wealth, she raised her prices, and before long, she was charging large sums for a single healing. But with each price increase, Mabel noticed something else happening. The people who came to her for help no longer seemed like they were truly grateful. Some of them demanded instant results. They wanted to be healed quickly with no questions asked. Some even came with arrogance, as if they were entitled to the power she had been given. Mabel began to feel the weight of her success. She was no longer the simple healer she once was. Her small home had turned into a palace, her life now filled with luxury and power. And yet there was something empty inside her. Despite all the riches and attention, she didn't feel happy. She had lost the joy of helping others. Then, one night, everything changed. Mabel had a dream. It was dark, and she was alone. Suddenly, the familiar voice of Mama Naga echoed in her ears. Her green eyes burned with fury, and Mabel felt a chill run down her spine. "You have broken our command," the Naga Queen hissed. "What was meant to be a gift, you have turned into greed. You've used the potion for selfish gain. Stomp now, or face the consequences." Mabel woke with a start, her heart racing. She was covered in sweat, her mind spinning. The dream felt so real. The warning from the Naga Queen echoed in her ears. But Mabel didn't listen. She was too powerful now, too rich. There was no turning back. She had tasted the wealth, and it was too sweet to give up. The next day, a stranger came to Mabel's healing house. He was tall and handsome, with sharp features and eyes as black as the night. He walked in like he owned the place, his gaze scanning the room as if it were a mere business transaction. His skin was strange, rough and scaly, almost like a reptile. "I need your help," he said, his voice smooth as silk. "I will pay you 10 times what you ask if you can heal me." Mabel's heart skipped a beat. This was the biggest deal of her life. She had healed so many, but this would be different. 10 times her usual fee. She had never imagined anything like this. Her mind raced with excitement, and for a moment she even forgot the warning from the Naga Queen. This was a chance for even more power, more wealth. She mixed the potion with oil as she had done before. With steady hands, she poured a drop into her palm and reached out to touch the man. But as soon as her fingers made contact with his skin, something went horribly wrong. The man's body began to twist and contort. His face stretched, and scales erupted from his skin. His arms grew longer and thinner, and his eyes turned into glowing emeralds. He was no longer a man. He had turned into a serpent. A deafening hiss filled the room, and Mabel stumbled back, horrified. The serpent slithered toward the door, its body massive and powerful. As it reached the doorway, it turned to look at Mabel. "Last time, greed has consumed you," the serpent hissed, its voice cold and full of malice. "The gift is no longer yours." And then, just like that, it was gone. Mabel stood frozen in shock, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Hand trembled as she reached for the vial, but when she looked inside, it was empty. The potion was gone. The power that had once flowed through her, that had healed the sick and saved lives, had vanished. The next day, Mabel tried to heal someone else. A young boy had been blind since birth, and his mother had begged her for help. But when Mabel used the potion, nothing happened. The boy remained blind. No miracle, no healing. The power had left her. Days passed, and Mabel realized the full weight of her actions. She had lost everything. Her house, her money, her fame of it faded away. People no longer came to her. The city that had once adored her now ignored her. She was alone as she sat in the ruins of her grand house. Mabel finally understood Mama Naga's warning. She had used the gift for greed, and now there was a price to pay. The potion, the healing power, it was never meant to be sold or used. For personal gain, it was a gift, sacred and pure. But she had turned it into something else, something dark and selfish. Mabel's heart ached with regret. She had been given a purpose, a chance to change the world, but she had let greed take over. Now there was nothing left but the empty echoes of her past mistakes. She had learned the hard way. Greed always comes with a price, and the price, in the end, was more than she could ever repay.